Welcome, friends, to this Sunday afternoon sutta study at the Dhammadharini Monastery in California. I'm very grateful to see all of you participating together, including we have got our monastics at the Aranya Bodhi Hermitage, as well as those here at the monastery, and several visitors who are with us in residence at the moment. In our community, we have a daily drop of Dhamma each morning at approximately 8 o'clock, and we have been taking the sutta that we're studying today and going over it sentence by sentence. So I feel very delighted that those who have been looking at the sutta for the past couple of weeks are enjoying the depth and the profound impact of these reflections, and then very happy to have that to share with you today. The name of the sutta is called Chabbisodhana Sutta, which is number 112 in the middle length discourses. This is the 6 purifications of an Arahant. Last week, we talked about the standard description of what an Arahant is that comes up in this sutta, and we also see it in many places. And we spoke about the first of the 6 reflections, which is the reflection about the 5 aggregates. The 5 aggregates affected by clinging. In each case, the format goes that if someone believes that they have become fully enlightened, fully awakened, that they've done what had to be done, that the defilements are completely destroyed in them, that there's no more coming to birth for them, and if they make that claim, one should not immediately begin to celebrate, but one should question them to test whether it's really true what they think they've accomplished. And the testing is given in the form of 6 questions that one could ask. The first 5 questions in particular are given a format. How do you know? The Buddha has given this teaching. How do you know and see regarding this teaching as one whose asavas, or one whose defilements, have been destroyed through non-clinging, one who has the freedom of the mind through the destruction of the asavas by not clinging. And that was the last thought that we closed on last week. I'm now going to open up the next question. So they gave the right answer regarding the 5 Then, saying good one may delight and rejoice in that bhikkhu's words. Having done so, a further question may be put thus. Okay, they want more volume. Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay.
This is on an AI. It's better, but can you increase it a little more? I have my computer set to the highest setting, and and it was fine for meditation this morning. So it's the mic maybe needs to be closer. Thank you.
I'm using a different mic today than the one we were using this morning. So it's a good learning experience. The other mic was louder. That's good to know.
I can hear you now.
I'm just keeping this mic close to me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, good. Thank you for this feedback. Okay, now. Friends, there are these 6 elements, rightly proclaimed by the Blessed One who knows and sees, accomplished and fully enlightened. What 6? They are the earth element, the water element, the fire element, the air element, the space element, and the consciousness element. These, friends, are the 6 elements rightly proclaimed by the Blessed One who knows and sees, accomplished and fully enlightened. How does the Venerable One know? How does he see regarding these 6 elements, so that through not clinging, his mind is liberated from the taints? We'll see as we go through this sutta that the first 5 are very much related to the insight, how one knows and sees the different aspects of experience. And the last one that we probably will come to next week is not only about understanding our insight, but it's about the entirety of the practice, how we live, how we practice that, cultivate the ethics, and so forth. So, and the answer is, a bhikkhus, when a bhikkhu is one with taints destroyed, and so on, completely liberated through final knowledge, this is the natural way for him to answer. So he's not looking at the notes and he hasn't memorized the sutta. Instead, he's answering spontaneously from the heart. Friends, I have treated the earth element as not self, with no self based on the earth element. With the destruction fading away, cessation, giving up, and relinquishing of attraction and clinging based on the earth element, of mental standpoints, adherences, and underlying tendencies based on the earth element, I have understood that my mind is liberated. So, what's different in this meditation compared to the previous one is that with regarding the 5 aggregates, with each aggregate beginning with form, it's treated as being powerless, unreliable, and insubstantial. Whereas on this case, it's treated as not self, with no self based on the earth element. So the previous contemplation, the contemplation about the 5 aggregates, is really recommended for penetrating and fully understanding dukkha. That's what that means, to be powerless and unreliable. You can't take refuge in it. It's not worth taking refuge in. It's unsatisfactory. So this is a really interesting. This teaching is something that I think is not appearing, this distinction between what's the usefulness of these different kinds of contemplation is not necessarily completely obvious, and so it's the most useful thing in the sutta that this is drawn out. So that's the part that's different, is that regarding as not self. This came up this morning in the meditation that Ayasuvijana led, and in the discussion afterwards, that changing the conceptual framework of looking at one's own body, instead of looking at like, oh, this is me, or this is my body, or I have to take care of my body, or my body is lovable, or my body is not good enough, or my body is perfect, whatever we think about the body, instead of thinking about it in all those ways, to analyze it in terms of the different elements that make up the body, and say one aspect of the body is this earthiness. So whatever is like hard or soft or substantial, or those are the qualities of earthiness. And then looking at the earthiness of the body, and then look externally at the world and see the earthiness of the earthy things in the world, like the hardness of the rocks and the softness of the earth, especially after a rain, when the earth has got that kind of a soft quality. And so you see earth element outside, earth element inside. You keep going back and forth. Or you could look at the earth element of all the other people. So there's the earth element in this body, and there's an earth element, and you, everybody has earth element in their body. And so then the earth element is just the earth element. It's not personal. And so by doing that, you keep going back and forth, inside and outside, with the earth element, until the mind lose track of seeing the earth element inside oneself as being self. Another way of doing this contemplation is that if a person is emotionally triggered, it could be like something that they want, or something that they dislike, or something that they fear, that there's a tendency for the delusion of the self to spring up very strongly when a person is subjected to those emotions. And so if I'm afraid of, let's say, there's some bad weather coming, and I'm afraid that there's going to be a flood. I'm just giving a hypothetical example. There is some rain coming, and there might be a flood. And then if I feel worried and fearful about the flood, then I could examine and say, well, so is the earth element in me afraid of the flood? And you couldn't really find it there. Is the water element in me afraid of the flood? Is the air element? So which element in me is afraid of the flood? Or if we are attributing a self to some other person, and let's say that person is picking on me, or that person, is angry at me or something, then I could say, well, Is the earth element in that person angry with me? Is the air element angry with me? And so on. And so what that does is it gives you a different framework to view one's own person, or to view a different person in a way which drains out the emotional reactivity. And by draining that out, it drains out some kind of a natural process we have that tends to feed into the delusion of the self. So that's a way of, a quick way, if you learn these meditations, when our selfishness kind of like springs up, if we get the habit very quickly, look at it in terms of the elements. The first four elements are the standard four elements of materiality. So there's the earth element. The water element is considered as both what's just wet in the ordinary sense, like saliva or tears inside, or like the rain or the river outside. And it also is referring to an element that causes cohesion or sticking together. So if you had a pile of flour sitting on the table and you blow on it, the flour would just blow away. But if you add some water to it and you knead it up, and it becomes like a rice bit of bread or patty of some sort, and then it's got the cohesion. So that's an aspect. But it's I think that in line with the other most important sutta about this, the Dhatu Vibhanga Sutta, the exposition on the elements, which is number 140 in the mid-length discourses, it's not referring so much about those technical qualities, but it's just saying what's earthy or what's watery. The Abhidhamma has the more analysis in terms of those qualities of materiality. So any material object has got a mixture of qualities. So you could say that the water is watery, but if you had a balloon filled with water, if you tried to compress it, you wouldn't be able to compress it very much, because it has, that's the earth quality, is that it has the resistance. And then if you scientifically analyze the water element, you could find that among the atoms of hydrogen and oxygen in the water, that there were like many spaces inside of that. So, and also the water is moving, so the air element. So all the elements are present. Every molecule of matter has got a mixture of different qualities of the various elements. And so this is another way that you could say that there's no self in anything, because it's not like purely one thing, but it's a mixture of different qualities. The air element is classically the breath, rising and falling, or it could be any other kind of like wind that comes and goes out of the body, or it can be the wind outside, and it's also associated with motion, so that when you move the body, that's the activity of the air element, or when the heart beats, or any of the, even the, like the life force, there's kind of like a quivering, trembling energy of the living body. That's all aspects of the air element. I should have said that the fire element, that's warmth. But coldness is also part of the fire element. So whatever the temperature is part of the fire element. And the fire element is associated with the breaking down of the earth element. So when something is burning, it's consumed. The earth element is consumed by the fire. Or your digestion is considered to be like the fire that you have inside your belly, inside the stomach, and inside the gut, which is consuming and breaking down the food in the body. The space element is referring to the empty spaces in between the objects. So in the room that you are sitting, there is a certain amount of space which is defined by the floor, the ceiling, and the walls. Inside the body, there's the space inside the lungs, or a space inside the nostrils, or the space inside the mouth. And again, from our modern experience, we realize that we were taught in school that physical matter is not a complete solid thing, but that each atom has got a nucleus and the electrons, and there's quite a lot of space within the configuration of a single atom. And likewise, any material thing has got a lot of space within it. In meditation, there may be a way that one can intuitively also grasp that there is, like deep inside of me, there is space. In the meditation on the space element this is coming into the immaterial meditations, where one you can imagine a world that contains all the things in the world, and it has the village and the people and the forest and everything in the world. And then you could delete the village and the people and just have the forest. And then you could delete the trees, and you just have the space. So the forest is empty of people. And then you delete the forest from the forest, and then the space is empty of the forest, and one comes to the contemplation of empty space, and then make the focus of awareness to be that boundless, or that boundless space. So that's a contemplation. And this is a very pure, peaceful, tranquil contemplation. But you can see that the self is like not there, because it's been deleted. In the last of the elements here is the consciousness element. That's the Vijnana Dhatu. And the commentary to this sutta says that in the context of this list of elements, the first 5 are related to materiality, and that then consciousness is a summary of mentality. All of the different mental factors in this context, according to the commentary, is included under the list of the consciousness element. So in the looking at the aggregates, you looked at the form element. There's just one term in the list that includes all the different things that are within form. And then you had several different phenomena that are aspects of mentality, such as feeling, perceptions, volition, and consciousness, meaning the knowing faculty. And then in this list, the emphasis is on subdividing or looking at different aspects of materiality, and then mentality is just one item on the list. Something that came to us in our conversation that we had about the sutta earlier when we were discussing it in our daily drop of Dhamma is an idea that there's a way that a person can more easily become emotional and attached and deluded about different aspects of mentality. Like a person can get excited about their feelings or their perceptions or their intentions that, you can see how you can sort of get wound up and activated around those things. But then when you're contemplating elements, just earth element, water element, it has a natural way that the mind becomes very calm, cool, and sort of detached, and that you're not really identifying with those things. And it's much easier and more natural to see the material elements as being just, that's nature. It's just, that's the way nature operates, is that the different elements have got their different qualities, and they have their different ways of, in a way like changing and interacting, that different elements could become more or less dominating in different situations. And so one can have an attitude of calm detachment and objectivity regarding the material elements. And this is not something that I heard from any teacher or so in the commentary, but it occurred to me that consciousness is also part of nature. Because of causation and the evolution of living life of sentient beings in the world, that beings operate in a certain way, and they have minds that operate in a certain way, and they're just following their own nature when they operate that way. And so then we don't need to be upset about it. We can just say, well, it's just because of causes and conditions, because it's natural that mind experiences contact and feeling, and perceptions arise, and the perceptions are sometimes deluded and sometimes accurate, and volition arises, and the volition is sometimes skillful and sometimes not skillful. And all of these things are happening because of causes and conditions, and you can have a certain kind of just calm detachment towards the whole process. And in that sense, you are not identifying with the elements, including the consciousness element. In the other sutta, in the exposition on the elements, it says that after doing the immaterial meditation on infinite space, then there just remains consciousness, which is purified and bright and malleable. And at that point, one has an opportunity either to reborn in a formless realm of pure consciousness and stay there for a long time, or else one has the opportunity of seeing with insight that even the consciousness element is conditioned. Even the consciousness element is still unreliable, changing, unsatisfactory, not worth identifying with, and then giving up the attachment even to that pure consciousness, giving up that attachment, one turns towards Nibbana. It is by knowing thus, seeing thus regarding these 6 elements, that through not clinging, my mind is liberated from the taints. And again, this is a theme that is given for each one of the insight. And you can say sadhu, sadhu, say good. One may delight and rejoice in those bhikkhus' words. I pause here and I invite any questions or comments about how the Arahant would know and see regarding the elements, and how we may practice to try to know and see like that. Okay, Ren.
Thank you, Aya. I'll try to formulate my mind. It's a lot going on right now. Thank you for the description on the different elements and including consciousness as an element. It kind of, to me, sort of address, I'm not sure fully at this point, I'm still figuring it out, but it sort of addressed the hard question of consciousness, right? I mean, whether consciousness comes from all this element somehow is an emerging thing, or it's something that's out there and not part of what physically, something from physical entity. In this explanation, it doesn't really matter, does it? Whether it's part of this ever-changing different kind of earth, wind, air elements and conscious, or is it something outside? It really, to me, doesn't seem like, it feels like a good way to handle this debate, but I have to think more about it. My second comment or question is, there seems to be a lot of emphasis that I've noticed this from, very, very early on how the fact that things are impermanent and always changing, and therefore it is not real. And I don't really see that necessarily as an argument. I mean, why can't a person be all these ever-changing composite of things? Just because it's not fixed doesn't mean that it's not valuable, or not valuable, but it doesn't mean that it's not real in a way. Why can't we just constantly, I keep thinking back to my water fountain analogy. I keep thinking that this is me, it's like all these different things. It's still a water fountain, but the molecule of the water is different, the flow is different, but still there's this, why can't we hang on to that as something permanent but ever changing?
I do not agree that the Buddha said that the elements are not real. This question about something being real or being not real is a question that the Buddha did not emphasize and consider worthwhile to discuss. But he did, and I become somewhat irritated in Western philosophy or in world philosophy. People are very worried about what's real or what's not real, and so they keep like looking for the answer. But I don't believe that that's the right way to frame the question. It is true, though, that the Buddha did emphasize that it's not reliable or not worth clinging to. And this is based, I think, on, it could be a worldview that, because of history, maybe it was more a natural perception in ancient times that, like, nature seemed to be kind of like eternal, and the king is always the king, and the summer is always summer, and winter is always winter, and the weather always like does the same thing year after year. And now, because of being in modern times, we say, well, the king is not the king. God is dead. The king is overthrown, and even the weather has been overthrown, and nothing, So we've gotten, in a way, adjusted to the rapid pace of historical change, and maybe. I mean, I think that change still is anxiety-provoking and sort of emotionally stressful. So in a way, like a constant change is an aspect of dukkha. But definitely the Buddha taught is that many things in the world that people try to cling to as being an eternal, blissful, eternal thing, is not blissful and not eternal. And no use trying to, and if you try to cling to it, if you try to make something permanent, which is not permanent, so like if you cling to your health, or if you cling to your wealth, or you cling to your family, you will invariably be disappointed. So that's my understanding about that teaching. And at that level, it's really practical, isn't it? It's also true that some things that are like impermanent, like if you go to the beach and you see a beautiful sunset at the beach, and it's like that moment, that particular moment of that sunset on that day, on that particular beach, that moment is only going to happen one time. And it's the very fact that it's impermanent and only happening one time that makes it seem so sweet and delightful and endearing. But that's if you can enjoy the moment, enjoy every moment, knowing that it's passing by, going so quickly, then every moment can be delightful like that, because the moments are coming in and going so fast, and one can be, like see the perfection in every moment. Okay, so now
That
I see many hands up now. Is that enough for you, Ren?
just one more thing. Just want to make sure that I do understand this. I was thinking about the scripture where the Buddha said, all the five khandhas, each khandha is not real. It's not self, not real, not real. It's not self because it's not permanent. Is not, therefore not to be pay attention to.
Okay, so Ren has disappeared on us.
Can you still hear me?
There you are. Now come back again. You were just, go ahead.
So to me, it really is the other side of the same coin. It's like saying that it's like there's so much emphasis. I just feel there's so much emphasis on what is self and equating self with permanence when when everything is changing, like exactly what you just described. I feel like it's the other side of a coin, by saying what is not permanent actually is permanent because change is always happening. I don't know if I understood it, but thank you. I felt like I've gone somewhere with this.
Even if you qualified and said there is no permanent self, that might see what that teaching about anatta is pointing to. I'm going to let Ayasivijana speak, and then I'll call on Damon.
Oh, I just wanted to, there was something you said earlier, Ren, about the consciousness floating around, but it's dependent on the nama rupa, it's not, the two are dependent on one another. So the consciousness is dependent on name and form. And all of it, I guess the angst of feeling like it's not real, it is real. Like I can say that this, what I'm sitting on is real, but it's not mine. So it's not me. And there's this physical form here, and it's always in flux. And we have this concept of self, and then there's a convention of self. And so that may be what's the difficult part, is that we operate as a self in the world, and then that's real. But this concept, it's just a concept. So I don't know if that's helpful. Anyway, thank you.
I'm going to add one more thought before calling on Damon, and that is looking at the consciousness element externally. So the other people in the world, each has their consciousness. The other beings in the world, sentient beings in the world, all of the animals and the insects and the butterflies and the birds all have their consciousness. And then the immaterial beings, like the demons and the angels and the spirits and all of the different levels of the celestial beings all have their consciousness. So in a certain kind of way, one can, feel that like our personal, individual, private consciousness is actually surrounded by consciousness element. Externally, the consciousness that belongs to other sentient beings. And then doing that exact same sort of like reasoning process, there's the consciousness that belongs to me, seems to belong to me inside, and then the one outside that definitely belongs to others. And then doing that back and forth meditation until the distinction of like my consciousness sort of like evaporates, and it's like just the characteristic of the consciousness element as being a quality. It's an impersonal aspect of reality that can be experienced. Okay, I'll come to Damon if you still have a comment.
Yes, thank you. This is a really great follow-up to our talk earlier, led by Aya over there. And yes,
Aya
thank you.
Suvijana.
Suvijana led a really great talk about self this morning. Anyway, I think also following up on Ren's comments and then your answer to them, that if we just quickly read to the end of the sutta, the answer is kind of like, I know we're going to get there, but it seems to me that, when the Buddha said, or whoever's talking to the Buddha, who is it again, this person? The mendicant?
Yes. A
Yeah.
bhikkhu might ask.
Yeah. So he says finally, when my mind has immersed in samadhi, bright, purified, rid of corruptions, that's the thing to take refuge in, right? This mind state, so that the consciousness element sounds pretty good. You might, it's almost permanent, but later on we're going to find out what really is permanent, right? Mm-hmm. Samadhi, pure, complete understanding of the Four Noble Truths.
We'll see when we get there. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see if we can go on and cover another one of the questions. So this is a further question. And these are like these three meditations, the aggregates, the elements, and the bases, the sense bases. These are like so important as aspects that can be investigated or explored through our meditation practice. Friend, there are these 6 internal and external bases rightly proclaimed by the Blessed One who knows and sees, accomplished and fully enlightened. What 6? They are the eye and forms, the ear and sounds, the nose and odors, the tongue and flavors, the body and tangibles, and the mind and mind objects. These, friend, are the 6 internal and external bases rightly proclaimed by the Blessed One who knows and sees, accomplished and fully enlightened. And then the question, how does the Venerable One know? How does he see regarding these 6 internal and external bases, so that through not clinging, his mind is liberated from the taints? So these are the faculties through which one experiences, you could say, the world. And each one of the faculties has a natural type of object, or you could say an aspect of the object that it's able to apprehend. So the eye is able to apprehend visible objects. The ear apprehends sounds. You know that some individuals have got a brain anomaly whereby sounds appear to them as shifting patterns of light. So it's not necessarily an absolute thing for everybody, but you also know that a particular object, let's say like lunch, it has a certain appearance apprehended by the eye. It has, I hope that the lunch is not making any noise while it's cooking. It could make some noise. It has an odor that's smelled, and it definitely has a flavor. And then it has a material quality, and when you pick it up or when you put it in the mouth and chew on it, it has that tangible quality. So a particular thing is, so it's not that there's one kind of object that's visible and a different kind of object that's audible, but these are just gateways for experiencing. And then the mind and the mind objects are called dhammas, and the mind has its own abstract mental things that it's able to experience apart from any material thing that could be presenting itself. So if you think of your mother, if your mother's not in the room at this moment, her visible, audible, tactile, or her odor, those things are all not physically present, but because of memory, then the mind is able to conjure up a memory of mother, and one can have that experience, so that becomes a mental object. And then there can be something like a concept like justice, or a concept like California, and that's a more there are that's primarily mental, and then even there's a way that a material thing that's being presented through the other 5 gates is being processed by the mental faculty, and so you could conceptualize about a material, physical thing that's presenting itself, saying, this is a particular type of person, or a particular type of object, or this is a good example of that object, or that's a flawed example of that type of object, or this object is good for something, or that object is. So there's many ways to think about, to conceive and conceptualize about objects that are presented through the other five senses, and so that way the a Dhamma is being fabricated, which is then experienced by the mind as a mind object. In particular, the mind does have its own unique objects, which are not material objects at all, that they don't have any of the other five qualities, but they can still be cognized by the mind. So that's the topic. And then the question is how does one know and see these? The answer. The bhikkhu, when a bhikkhu is one with the taints destroyed, completely liberated through final knowledge, this is the natural way for him to answer. Friends, with the destruction, fading away, cessation, giving up, and relinquishing of desire, lust, delight, craving, attachment, I'm going to stop here. There's one cluster which is unique to this meditation object. It's the destruction, fading away, and cessation and giving up of desire, lust, delight, and craving. These are very much in the realm of the desire realm. It's more like a feeling kind of a response, more so than a cognitive response. So cognitively, it would be more like a cognitive thing to identify with something, or to think this is mine or this belongs to me, or to have the attention be attracted to paying attention to something. That's all an aspect of looking and knowing and seeing. But then this a desire, lust, delight, and craving is like how you feel about it. So this feeling response is something that, for one who's reached the goal, that activation of that feeling response has become cooled down. The desire, lust, delight, and craving is cooled down. The next part of the sentence is something that is not unique to the six ayatanas, but rather is something that's shared among all of the different kinds of objects. That's translated here as attraction and clinging, mental standpoints, adherences, and underlying tendencies. This is a big compound word. Upayapadana is chaitaso, that's one cluster, and that's the attraction and clinging. So mind is attracted to some object, and mind becomes fixated on an object. And then mental standpoints, adherences, and underlying tendencies is another great big long compound word. So it's aditana abhinivesana anusaya. And it's in these compound words, it's sometimes not clear if it means the underlying tendencies towards adherences, towards mental standpoints, or towards all of it altogether. Bhikkhu Bodhi in his talk proposes that it means the underlying tendency towards all of these things. So this feeling aspect of cooling down of the desire, lust, and delight is becomes cool. That's at the feeling level, and then more at the mind level, how one thinks, the attraction, clinging, the mental standpoints, adherences, and underlying tendencies also becomes given up and relinquished. Regarding the I forms, I consciousness, things cognizable, and so forth like that. And then these things are given up for each one of the 6 internal and external objects. One can think about like having an eye and being able to see it's really wonderful to be able to see. And if you thought that you were losing your eyesight and you wouldn't be able to see anymore, you could see that a person could really feel some grief and sadness. It's like my vision is like, oh, my good friend, I'm so grateful and appreciative I can see. I can read the suttas because I can see. If I lost my eyesight, I wouldn't be able to read the suttas anymore. I'd have to listen to them. And then what if I lost my seeing and my hearing both? Then I could feel very sad. And so this is why we like having these faculties. But it's this very liking and delight that when we get home, when we're fully awakened, that can be cooled down. And then it's okay, it doesn't matter. If we lose the eyes, we lose the ears, we lose the taste, we lose the body. It doesn't really matter anymore when we got home. So those are my thoughts about this, and I will welcome any comments or questions about how an Arahant practices with the 6 senses, or how we would practice if we would like to make like an Arahant while we're going along our way on the path.
May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you, Aya. Can you hear me?
Is that Dilshan?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I actually have a question, based on a story of the Arahant Vakkali, because, we are talking about the Panch Upadana Skandhas essentially here, right? The impermanent nature of it. And, one question I have that's been reverberating in my mind is that, when Arahant Vakkali, when he was grievously ill, he cogitated on the impermanent nature of the Panch Upadana Skandhas in 11 different ways, if my memory serves me correct. And Buddha was constantly, communicating with him by sending different messengers. And they were all believing that, after death, now he will reach deathlessness, he will achieve Nibbana. But, he actually did. and he engaged in these, meditations, perhaps, Kayanupassana, because he was, feeling a lot of body pain as well. But, he opted to commit suicide upon attaining Nibbana, as the story goes. So my question is that, if you are able to come to this sort of wisdom, and if you are able to defeat pain by understanding the fact that the pain itself is impermanent, because, it's through the, we call it pasya, right? Like the body plus, Vedana plus, body consciousness, and cogitating on the fact that even that pain that occurs within the body is, impermanent, and so on and so forth. So as you engage in this, type of, meditations, you are able to understand that, hey, I am able to defeat the pain, through the medicine of Dhamma. But why did he decide to commit suicide? Although he had the ability to, attain Nibbana through the practice itself. I was wondering if you had a comment on that, because, a lot of youth who look up to, this sort of, arhats, might end up thinking that, hey, maybe being done with life, is a way to attain Nibbana. So I wanted to sort of clear any doubts, that would have created in my own mind. Plus, if you had any reflections on the story of, any comments on the story of Arhat Vakali. Thank you.
So the story of that suicide is something that's controversial in the sense that killing is a fault, including taking one's own life and advising another, even advising somebody else that they might as well kill themselves is not, it's a grievous fault. There was the occasion when the Buddha had been teaching about the asubha meditation, about the unattractiveness of the body in terms of the parts of the body. And then while the Buddha had gone away, many of the monks were thinking, this body is just unattractive and useless. Why don't I just get rid of it? And the barber came around and said, well, I've got a knife, or I have a razor. Would you like to do away with yourself? And the Buddha did not agree with that. He didn't recommend it. And he taught them different kinds of meditation, that they wouldn't go down that path. So I understand that in the commentary, that it's said that, like, after using the knife and before death, there had been a realization that caused that bhikkhu to overcome the karma associated with having used the knife to kill himself and to obtain enlightenment. That's like a sort of, you could say that's a kind of a tortuous explanation, but that is the explanation that I've heard. In reality, when you are with people who are having extended chronic end-of-life illnesses, and the body is gradually falling apart and becoming more and more repulsive and difficult and unpleasant, and then there are different kinds of medical choices that these days we're asked to say, do you want to choose to take this kind of medicine to prolong your life? And a person who's a monastic, or any person who's a practitioner, or even someone who's not a Buddhist, has the opportunity to choose, do I want to just focus on doing everything possible to make my life last longer, or do I want to instead focus on whatever's necessary for the or whatever's the best for keeping as much quality of life as possible, in terms of comfort or in terms of mental clearness, and then simply to allow nature to take its course without trying to, and even, in the management of pain, they give morphine, and it's a very common thing that
Yeah.
people realize that there's sort of like a trade-off between the amount of morphine they use and the length of life that they have left. So it's not like you're never going to be confronted with a choice about whether to kill yourself or not. So it would be quite good to know what your beliefs and values are about that, and to really be clear. The Blessed One advised not killing. So that's my answer about that.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll call on Richard. Richard, you're muted.
Thank you, Raya. One question. I know that the Buddha forbade encouraging or tricking another into committing suicide, as well as assisting in any way. But I don't remember him forbidding suicide as an individual choice. And there's quite a number of suttas where, a bhikkhu takes their own life, and Buddha even seems to indicate that they were, arahants. I mean, I remember there's this one where there's this whirlwind going around, and I think Buddha was just joking, but he says, "Oh, look, there's Mara. He's looking for him, but he can't find him." But some people take it seriously and think that's really Mara, spinning around. But anyways, I'm just saying that's my opinion. But I don't remember that. I have read through the rules of the monastics, but I don't remember that specific rule. Now, I could just be forgetting. But the other point I wanted to make is, maybe you can address that when I'm done with this other point. The individual who was just talking, Dilshan, he was using a term, defeating pain, I think he said. But I don't believe there's anything in Buddhism about defeating pain. One can tolerate pain, or one can enter into jhana to the extent to which they don't feel the body's pain anymore while they're in that state. But, even the Buddha, when he was about to die with Ananda, he laid down between the trees, and they made like a little resting place for him. And then he told Ananda, Ananda, I thirst. Can you go back to that stream back there and get me some water? So I would say, oh, here's the Buddha, he's about to die. What is he talking about? He's thirsty. A lot of people have these kind of there's certain functions of the body which are just natural functions. You get hungry, you thirst. It's whether or not you're craving. Oh, I thirst. Can you go down the store and get me that, chocolate milkshake or something, or something like that? Whether you're thirsting for some particular sensual desire, or can you get me this type of food? I'd really like to eat that right now, or whatever like that. But just satiating hunger or satiating, thirst, that's not specifically, the type of desire that Buddha is talking about. He's talking about being caught up in trying to, find enjoyment and please the senses and everything. But anyway, that's just my point of view. But if you could answer that other question, I may be misremembering, but I don't remember a specific forbidding, nor am I encouraging anyone that they should commit suicide or anything like that. I'm just making a point that I think it was a self-choice, and it should be a totally self-choice. And it was usually done under extremely painful situations, or like the example you gave where the monks kind of got carried away, and sort of misunderstanding, Buddha's teaching on a certain thing, and it causes them to become psychologically, upset or whatever. Anyway,
Well, it's a very grievous fault for a bhikkhu or a bhikkhuni to recommend suicide. So I don't recommend suicide. And
He doesn't know where it is. It's in the Parajika.
it's in the Parajikas where that rule is. As far as the choice on one's own behalf about ending one's own life, I think some of the ambiguity you feel is that the will to live is, it's something that is definitely a factor in one's life, or in the time of the end of one's life. We see many examples from the Buddha down to the most common ordinary person. I mean, you see people who wait until after Christmas to pass away because they want to be with their family for Christmas. Or you see people who, while their relatives are gathered around, they stay alive, and then when the relatives leave the room, then they pass away. So, like the will to live is an aspect of the end of life, and the Buddha did not try to criminalize something that's sort of natural and inevitable about that. But we don't recommend suicide, and we appreciate that meditation can be an aspect of pain management to both be able to be psychologically more fit to tolerate bodily pain, and also to be able to get away from experiencing bodily pain in some cases. I'd like to call on Corina.
Hi, Aya.
Hello. There you are.
Hello. Yes. Thank you for holding this session. Happy early birthday. I keep going back to your question of how would we practice like an Arahant, the way an Arahant practices like this. And actually, I was thinking a little bit about your question, Ren, if I understand it, like the difference between it's almost taking impermanence as something to take refuge in. So what comes up for me is like all of this seems to be about what to take refuge in. I love that line about, so that the mind is freed from defilement by not grasping. So the answer that I've come up with for your question is actually just another question for myself to ask myself that, like, is this something that, where is this going to lead me? Is this something I can take refuge in? Whether it's my body, my feelings, the eye, the object that I'm seeing, all the part of the 6 questions, all the different bases. So yeah, just keep asking myself, where does this ultimately lead me? Is this something I want to take refuge in? Yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. I think in a certain way, I'd like to invite you to consider reverse engineering the statement that's given in the sutta. This is about the way that the delight and relishing in connection with the sense bases and the internal and external and the corresponding external objects. And that is that if we have the character that we tend to become carried away by delight and relishing and looking for fun, And if we see the danger in that, and we want to know how to, if that kind of greedy mind comes up in us, and we want to have like a quick, effective way to stabilize our mind and to not fall under the sway of this greed, delight, relishing sensual pleasure, if that's the kind of a danger for us, a temptation for us, then I think this sutta is telling us that the analysis of the senses is the way to work with that, to pull out of it, to pull back. So I think this could be like if you were somebody who's got the history of being an addict, the whole addictive process and the whole treadmill of addiction, and when you're in a situation that's stressful and difficult, and then the mind turns towards whatever the kind of a substance or activity that you're addicted to, and it's saying, let me just go and and have some of that, and that will be my medicine. It'll make me feel better. I've got to get out of this stress, or this pain is unbearable. I've got to just let me go to that because I can't cope with the stress. And so that's the moment that the mind says, danger, danger. How am I going to handle this? And I think that this sutta is suggesting that if you just make the inquiry, like which sensation is involved? Is it the smell that's got me going? Is it the taste that's got me going? And understanding how the sense basis fits into independent origination, that's where the contact is happening, and with the contact comes the Vedana, or the feeling, and from the Vedana is like lighting a fuse on dynamite. That's where the explosion of all kinds of reactions happen. And so it's like when you've been carried away in craving, it's like that explosion is starting to happen. But then if you go back a step, and back a step, before the contact happened, you had the sense faculty. And so it's just a way of thinking about it, to step away from the conflagration of desire, or the explosion of different kinds of reactions, and to step back to more like a safe space, because it's more of an objective space, to say, well, I have eyes, I can see. And so if I saw a beautiful, lovely, lovable, attractive person, and they're so cute, and their hair is so cute, and their fingernails are so cute, and and then the mind starts going off into this thing, then if you just step it back and say, okay, so that's the eye, and that's a visible object, and that's going from something that's emotional back into something that's objective, and that's kind of clear. So it's just a thought about why this particular approach, because this Arahant is not saying not only like how it is for me right now while I'm a fully enlightened Arahant, it's also saying, how did I practice to get here? So it has an aspect of being somewhat like retrospective, like looking at it in these ways are the ways that enabled me to reach this state. We've come to the wonderful moment of 2:30, and I'm going to now take one last round of persons who have something to add, and I'll call on Damon.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we've talked a lot about sense restraint, especially the big five. But how do we restrain the more existential cravings for existence or craving to become? What are practical examples that we should practice, day to day to rein in the, is it called mind sense here?
Yeah. The craving for existence. I am going to say that the craving for existence, the destruction of the craving for existence, that's one of the three asavas, the three taints, whose destruction is the mark of a fully enlightened Arahant. And in one way, it's the total package of the practice that gradually wears down that craving for existence.
Okay.
That's one, the most likely answer. Another possibility in the, not in this sutta, but in the parallel sutta and the agamas, it gives the nutriments, the four nutriments, as one of the 6 topics, and they ask the Arahant how they work with it. So the nutriments are referring to those factors which sustain the existence of a being or support a being who's trying to come into rebirth. So they support continued existence, the nutriments, and they support the transition from one state of existence to another state of existence. And when we get to that teaching next week, or if you review the retreat on the nutriments that we had a little while ago, I think you may find that meditating on the nutriments is very direct about the craving for existence.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anything else?
Oh, I don't know. I was just thinking about the craving and then how that tanha is a cause of dukkha, and then really seeing that relationship between the craving and the tanha is what helps dissolve the tanha and the dukkha. I mean, really dissolves the craving eventually, and the cessation of the craving. It may all even relates to, is it Damien? It's question 2.
Yes.
That continued existence. So that's, yeah. But that's really wonderful to say about the nutriments too. That's what supports continued existence. So a craving for those, the continuing of those. Oh, the volition actually is what's fueled actually by the craving most of all, I think, for propelling us.
Excellent.
I had another thought too, is that there's all this desire and delighting and lust for the sense basis, but if we pull away from at least the physical senses and start to experience more internally and not be so dependent on the external, and we kind of are pulling away from this, at least the physical, and then getting.
So samadhi is the,
So the samadhi, and I think I'm getting to Corina's question too, what are we taking refuge in? It's just not like we're just kind of chucking it all out, all of it, all of a sudden, and just kind of left in this kind of desert or something, a desolate place. It's that there's something more joyful, more, there's a joy that's not dependent on the physical senses, and then so we get a taste of something that's apart from what we're usually chasing after, and then so it's kind of maybe it's the raft that's taking us across.
thank you. So we'll close by giving respect. Oh, Dilshan, I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Yeah, may the blessings of the Noble Representative be with you. Thank you. I think I wanted to add a little bit, that, maybe Paticca Samuppada is another great analysis that gives us insight into the very existence that we are living, isn't it? Because the exalted master says, Upadana Pacha Bhava. So basically, and Bhava Pacha, this great, it's never ending, right? He saw he want by what you call it, the Pubbe Nivasanussati Jnana, which he attained, which he used to go back in time to see where the bhava started, and then he went ahead of time to see where the bhava is going. So the existence, the very existence, he's not something. He says that like for how long it takes for one to bat an eyelid. I don't appreciate the existence, even for that long. That's, if my memory serves me right, so those are the words that he used to express, how much, existence is not something, one should, desire, because, it, once again causes dukkha. So just want to add that, about the Paticca Samuppada. Thank you.
Thank you. I definitely agree that the contemplation of dependent origination would be another excellent strategy to cut the craving for existence. Yeah. Yes.